Hey, what's up guys? Today Roger and I are going to be adding on to a horse barn. So what we have existing here is a 30-foot long by, I'm gonna say 20-foot wide barn already. And we are coming out 10 foot with the same pitch, 312 pitch I believe it was, and then the length of the existing building, which is 30 foot. The material that I'm using is 3 square 11 gauge, which is essentially 1/8 of an inch thick, and then I'm using 6-inch receiver and then 6-inch C purlin to go in between the receiver, and then I will use 3-inch C purlin for the girts, if you will. I'm Austin Ross and I make videos about mobile rig welding. If these are videos that you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to get notified when I post a new video every Friday, make sure and ding that bell. So the first thing to do on any kind of structure is your groundwork, right? Well, in this particular situation, the customer wanted to drill his own holes and pour his own concrete, and then I left some plates for him to put in the concrete. Unfortunately, I messed up and did not stress to him the plates needed to be level and somewhat square. Now, I did come out and lay the holes out, but you know, whenever you drill holes, if you're not running string line to make sure everything's square, the holes tend to be a little bit off. So we had to make it work, but that's okay in this particular situation. I do advise though, if you run into this situation where the customer wants to put a little sweat equity into their own job, at minimum, educate them and stress to them how important it is to have your plates level and square with one another. Since I didn't do that, Roger and I had to do things the hard way, I guess you could say, which story of my life, I learned things the hard way, but that's all right. Hopefully we can all learn from this situation. So the first thing we did was cut our post to length. This existing building was roughly 10 foot, and then with the 312 pitch that we're following, we'll end up with a roughly 8-foot piece at the bottom, but I just went ahead and cut them all at 10 foot, a little bit over, and then whenever we go to shoot in our elevation, we'll make everything flow with the existing building. The one thing about existing buildings is sometimes they can be off, and in this case ours was a little bit off. Their building was essentially lower on one end as it was the other ends, but we just made ours match. Before we started standing our post up, we ran a string line, which this is something we would do anyway, whether the plates were uneven, unsquare or not, you would always run a string line so all your posts will be in line with each other. So in this case, I needed a string line to make sure my posts were in line with each other and square with each other, but also so I could find the happy medium with my plates that were not square with one another. So we ran a string line and then we started erecting all of our posts. So here they are after we got them all stood up. Here's a clip of the worst plate. It was at quite an angle here, and I had one of two options, which was either miter my post to match the angle of the plate or do what I did, which was cut a piece of 1/2-inch plate and put it on that low side. This is what I mean by making it work. It kind of reminds me of being on tie-ins on the pipeline. For those of you that have been on tie-ins on the pipeline, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you that have not, what I mean by that is when it comes to like tie-ins on pipe, like a final tie-in, a lot of times your fit up isn't going to be the best. I mean, nowadays they require it to be a pretty good fit up, but they still have some tolerance, and sometimes your fit up ain't exactly right and you just got to make it work. So that's the beauty of being a mobile rig welder, or just a welder in general. You know, that's just what we do. We just make it work. But I am heavy on doing what you can to prep everything to make it as good of a fit as possible. But with this barn add-on, I messed up by not educating my client or talking him into letting me do the posts. The next thing we did was make a reference point. Since all of our plates were not level with each other, we needed something to go off of whenever we're building this structure. In a perfect world, if you had a slab that was level, you could pull off the bottom and make all your measurements, just off that slab because it's level. With this, the ground is not level, plates are not level, so we needed a reference line, and that's what we're doing now. Roger has got a soapstone, and I am telling him up or down, and then whenever I tell him stop, he is in my crosshairs on my transit, and he makes a line, and that should be level. A cheaper way of doing this is measuring up or just making a random mark on one post and then running a string line to connect all your posts, and using a string line level, you could get them all, you could make your reference line that way. So that's essentially what we're doing with this transit here. So the next thing that we did was put the 6-inch receiver up. We put 4 pieces total, 1 on each end facing in, and then 2 in the middle facing outward to catch the 6-inch C-purlin. Alright, now it's starting to look like something. The duration of this project took 2 days. Roger had to leave early the first day, which was okay because I needed his help to set all these receivers up. I got all them up, and luckily I was able to lift these 6-inch C-purlin up and put them into place. That's the nice thing about building a structure this way with that receiver, is it has a ledge, and I was able to get in the middle on a ladder and just lift everything up, all my 6-inch purlins up, and put them into place. These are 15-foot spans. That's one of the reasons I went with 6-inch, was because of the 15-foot span. I put 4 C-purlin about 34 inches apart on this particular structure. Alright, it is now the next day. First thing I'm going to do is cut these tops off, so that's done. And then start measuring for my cross members. I'm going to put probably a couple runs of, probably try to match that one. 1, 2, 3. So probably like 3 runs of C-purlin, or 2 C-purlins, and maybe I might put some 3-inch up there. Same with here, but that's going to be the first thing. Yeah, buddy. Good day. Not too windy. Absolutely gorgeous out. All right, now that I've got all my access posts cut off, the next thing I'm gonna do is measure for a header, more or less. I'm gonna take some more 3 square 11 gauge and run horizontally along the top of this structure. This will add strength to the structure, but it's also going to allow us to tie the extra post in that we have on each bay of this structure. So this structure is actually being broke down into 2 stalls. They're gonna put a divider in it, and each stall is gonna have a doorway to the pasture. And so to do that, we added an extra post. You notice there's 2 extra posts in the front versus right up against the building. And that's just so they have something to connect the tin to and hang a door. I don't know if they're gonna hang a door or not, but that way they can have a doorway is why we put an extra post there. And so by putting this 3-inch header along the top, it acts as several different things, but it also allows us to tie that extra post into the rest of the structure. So I'm fixing to put a piece of 3-inch square tubing along the top here, 4 different pieces, cut in between all those. So I measured up, I wanted it to go right up underneath here. And so I measured up from this reference point and made a mark. And I've done the same on every one, but I also ran a string line just for giggles to see, and I'm glad I did, because for some reason they all line up decent except for this one here. For some reason this one here is off by 1/4 inch or so. So that's why I'm glad I ran a string line. Here I'm just using some angle iron. I've laid out where I want my horizontal pieces to go, drew me a straight line, clamped the angle irons on, and then set the piece of square tubing up there, make sure it's square, and then tack it off. Now it is time to measure for the 3-inch C purlin that I'm going to put in here. I'm going to put 2 pieces of purlin all the way around, right here and right here. This will give them something to attach the tin to, while also adding strength to the structure. There's something about building stuff that is so gratifying, so fulfilling. I love working with my hands and I love building stuff. I love taking a trailer full of straight metal and then creating a structure or something out of it. I absolutely love it. It's so neat to me, so fascinating. So here it is all finished up. A couple days before, Parker and I also finished up this carport. If you haven't seen that video, we'll link it in the description. I did not film us putting the skin on this because frankly, I'm still learning about skinning buildings, so I just took my time and really focused and didn't want to have to worry about filming that day, but here it is all finished up. Definitely some things I would change, but again, this structure was started with the foundational issues, so that kind of played a part in how some of this was designed. But overall, I think it's gonna work for them. So definitely learned a lot through these 2 projects for this customer. I'm looking forward to making the next projects that we do that much better. As long as you're learning from situations that you get into, mistakes you make or situations that you get into, that's what counts. That's my advice. If you haven't heard, we've got leather patch hats back in stock on the Industrial Tradition website. We've also got items back in stock on the Welding website. We've got grinder holders, grasshoppers, circle burners, of course, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, stickers, all on the Welding website. Head on over there and check it out if you're interested. Thank y'all for watching. And remember, learn something every day.